Hey, welcome everybody. Straight out of Workers' Comp live from the WCI Hospitality Circle. Got to get that right. We definitely don't want to be in the hospital circle. We want to be in the hospitality circle. I'm joined by a good friend of mine, Alex O'Neill. I've known since 2010 when he joined the company I was with no experience in workers' comp. And now he's the CEO and founder of Arbicare, a thriving company in their 6th year of operation now. I'm happy to chat with him a little bit about what it's like to go from not knowing about work comp to now being an entrepreneur. Alex, how you doing?
Great, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember when we first met and you literally probably couldn't even spell workers' comp, much less understand what was going on. And it was definitely drinking from a fire hose. What was it like back then to kind of enter a brand new industry? And then as you've evolved into someone who's a true expert and now an entrepreneur?
Well, first off, no one can spell workers' comp when they first come into this industry.
That's true,
because it is extremely foreign and you're extremely overwhelmed. And as a young guy that was just given a chance to kind of come aboard a small company and meet people like yourselves and have people to help you grow, it was really the best experience I've had and really what shaped kind of my career moving forward. I think about that all the time because as a young guy, I was given the opportunity to fail, which is really the opportunity to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what I was good at back then. And being in a small company and being kind of thrown out and hey, figure it out. Here's some basic things that you can do to succeed. Go try it out. You just don't get that in many places.
Mm-hmm.
And that helped me develop a confidence over time that I knew I could go out and perform in my job and do that on a day-to-day basis. And we did that a lot together, which was...
We were on the road a lot, quite a bit.
We did that a lot together, which was really fun. And ultimately helped me to go from kind of not knowing anything to having a certain confidence about me to seeing a strategic vision of kind of what I think that this industry should look like, and particularly the service that we provide should look like. To the point where I stopped sort of thinking, okay, here's what I would do if it were my choice to, I don't think I have the choice but to go do this and execute on it now. It was crazy at the time, but looking back 6 years ago, it's been the best choice I've ever made.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you're surrounded by young people in your organization. And that's certainly something that old people like me, we need the next generation, that next batch of leadership. What advice would you give to someone who's kind of maybe early on in their process and still doesn't know how to spell workers' comp and not really confident in their skills and what they want to do?
Yeah, it's really just keep your mind open and learn. But the first thing that you have to keep in mind is you can't lose confidence because you're going to be overwhelmed. This is an incredibly, incredibly difficult industry to learn and to master. And nobody in this industry, regardless of who they are, regardless of what they say, knows it inside and out. You just don't. That's a big part of why you do what you do, is to help people be able to get as far along that path as they can. And so don't get discouraged early. Use the opportunity to learn. Read as much as you can. Spend as much time with people. Ask questions. A former boss of ours still tells me to this day that he tells the story, and he calls it the Alex story. And I'm embarrassed by it, the way he tells it. But he said he would just feel me lurking kind of outside of his office in the doorway. And he could see me in the reflection from his monitor. And he would be thinking, oh, gosh, like, what does he need now? Like, what does he want to do? And then it took him years later, and he's running another organization now. And he tells that story because I was just a guy who had questions, and I just wanted to learn. And that was the best way for me to learn personally, right? You can sit down and read a book inside and out, or you can get practical hands-on experience. And that was a phenomenal way. It's just listening and being able to ask questions and go back and forth and do that over and over and over. So that's the advice that I would tell them. And then always seek opportunity to get out and get out of your comfort zone. You guys got me out of my comfort zone very quickly, out in front of customers, out in front of some of the, largest C-suite executives in some of the largest companies in this industry. And I was a mid-20s guy that didn't feel like I had anything to offer them. And you keep going over time, and then I became confident that I did. And I think they reciprocated that as well.
Yeah. Speaking of out of your comfort zone, I remember very early on, there were 3 colleagues that came in basically at the same time, and I had the biggest office. And so we put 2 desks in there along with mine, and y'all would Google the largest TPAs and contact points. And we had one phone, and one person would make the call, and the other 3 people would learn and listen and overwhelm and provide constructive criticism, obviously. And y'all were all friends. So it was like, kind of gay. What was it? I've heard that learning a language is better by immersion, that if you want to learn Spanish, it's best to go into a Spanish speaking country and just kind of dive in. What was it like to be immersed and just kind of dunked right off the bat? It's like, okay, Alex, it's your turn. Make a phone call, a completely cold phone call to somebody who you don't know.
Small business is the best, isn't it? You just can't replace that atmosphere anywhere else. When you're just all sitting in a room just trying to figure it out, and you don't leave a room till you got it figured out. That's just the attitude, what we took. And talk about pressure. There's no more pressure in the world than having your peers who you care about judging what you do,
right,
and how you do it. And so some of that kind of stuff, some of the stuff where we'd have to get up in front of each other and present, that was way more terrifying than actually getting in front of a client and doing some of that.
Started off worse than actually getting into talking to somebody was easier, huh?
Yeah. So those were incredible learning moments, and I would always make sure I was prepared to be able to, I guess at worst, not look like an idiot, maybe at best, be able to teach people a few things and be able to show people like you and Michael and the rest of the group that I was capable of delivering a message.
So what are some lessons that you learned in that process? Because we were a small company. I wouldn't say startup because I've been there for a while, but certainly what we were doing was new. You started a brand new company from scratch. What did you learn from maybe that early onset that you've incorporated as an entrepreneur as you've started the company and now you're doing great, 6 year of operation? What were some lessons you learned that go, I want to do that, or I definitely don't want to do that as we start a company? As
it relates to our early experiences together.
And you can be completely honest. That's okay.
Well, no, there were a lot of different things, but I think what I found was my way to communicate. Everybody has their own personal style. And one of my very best friends in the world, who as well, him and I were in the same path, doing the same thing in the same position, and we couldn't have had more different ways of going about communicating. And you're watching these different people and how they go about their business, and you're at some point you're trying to kind of figure out, is that the way I want to do it, or do I want to do it that way? And then you realize kind of what your own way is. And so I figured out at that time how I communicate and how I best get across the message in an authentic way, in an intelligent way that helps us to ultimately succeed. And so ultimately moving on to Arbicare and getting that started and off the ground, I felt like because I had found that, and I'd found the way that I can be myself and communicate with the industry and with clients and prospective clients, that it gave me the foundation I needed to be able to go deliver a message about a company that didn't exist yesterday, basically, right? And how to do that in a way that helped us to kind of lay the groundwork for future success. We were very deliberate not to overcomplicate things. When you're in the planning stage, it is so easy to come up with all these crazy different ways of doing things, these market disruptors. And at the end of the day, it comes down to service. And we're focused. We do one thing, we do it better than everybody else. and we do it centered around service excellence. If we can make sure that we're providing the very best service to our clients, whether it's answering the phone or whether it's each daily interaction that our operations team does on a daily basis to ultimately create a better outcome that affects the injured worker, that affects the client, that affects the provider, then that's really what we've reached when it comes to service excellence. So I think that no matter what you do, you can make up anything. If you provide good service and you're responsive and you listen to what the client needs, you'll be successful.
Gotcha. Just an FYI, that's a leadership masterclass, just what you heard right there. So final thing, a question, for people who are entering the industry, what is a compelling reason for those who have not made the choice to join workers' comp and they're maybe trying to decide on a career trajectory, they want the P&C industry, or maybe they haven't considered it. What is your best elevator pitch to join work comp as an industry? Because we really do need a whole bunch of younger generation people with driven passion to join us. So what's your elevator pitch for that?
Yeah, embrace the complex.
Okay.
Right? When you see something hard, don't run from it, lead into it. And that's what workers' compensation is. It's incredibly fragmented. There's 51 different jurisdictions. There's sets of rules that you'll never be able to memorize back and forth. You can get a good understanding of them. And when you do that, and you can come and you can have a really good understanding of this industry that sits in kind of a healthcare, kind of a property casualty insurance that's highly regulated, you're entering just huge complexities altogether. And that creates a great place to provide helpful service and helpful, consulting to clients that ultimately need it. And regardless of where you sit on kind of the service provider part of the house or on the claims part of the house or the technology, kind of part of the industry, there's just so many ways that you can make an impact. And so I would say always embrace the complex, because if you lean into it, 9 of the other 10 people are probably going to run away from it. And when you do that, good things are ahead.
Gotcha. I said that was the final question, but this is actually the final question.
Okay, good.
So I'm old, and all my kids are out of the house. Work-life balance for me is a little bit different because I got nothing better to do than work, right? You're you're in that sweet spot where most people are, where you've got children, you've got a spouse, you've got job, you've got personal activities. What's some advice from a work-life balance, especially for someone who's now who used to be an employee, who's now the entrepreneur, the one who's setting the framework, setting the leadership? And so how do you balance work and life so that you don't burn out on either end, on either your family or the work part?
Yeah, well, nobody's got that one perfectly figured out. And it's certainly something that you have to think about when you become an entrepreneur. But really the best thing to do is if I'm working a little bit extra, is to communicate and make sure the family knows when I'm going to be doing that, and how I'm going to be doing that, and what the expectations are. I think the hardest thing, if I need to work outside of hours or there's something different happening, is to just communicate. If I'm surprising the family and saying, oh, hey, by the way, I'm not going to make the soccer game this week because of work, that's not received very well.
Right.
And so I think communication on what has to happen. But ultimately, you have to set that foundation very, very early. And I think Hal and I were able to do that with ourselves and not overwork ourselves at the beginning to see if we can make something happen a little bit faster. We knew what the timeline of this was going to look like. We knew it wasn't a smashing success month 2. It was going to take some time. And because of that, I think as we brought on more employees and we set that work-life balance, I think the culture was kind of set in there. That doesn't make it easy. We work coast to coast. It's kind of an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. thing. But we try to segment people in the right places based on where they are and based on what the functions they do to be able to make sure that they're not burnt out. So it's complicated, but you have to kind of ingrain it in the culture. And if I'm going to work extra, I got to make sure that I'm not out telling everybody how much I'm working extra, because I don't want them to think that that's an expectation of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something I may need to do at the time. So I think that's an important thing from a leadership perspective is don't put pressure on others to feel like they have to do what you may need to do sometimes.
Gotcha. Well, I'm really proud of you, Alex, what y'all been able to accomplish. We have a unique bond, I guess, just because your early entrance was kind of my fatherly aspect of that.
Yeah.
And it's just so fun to see a younger generation kind of take an idea and create a brand new company. And you're creating opportunities for a bunch of other people in your organization that's going to be that next batch of leaders as well.
Well, and I'm in the seat that you were, and to see people grow the way that they have and kind of how they found their voice and what they're good at, and be successful and doing things that I think that they enjoy on a day-to-day basis is really gratifying. And we try to make sure everybody understands everything you do on a day-to-day basis has an impact on others. We talked about the injured worker, the provider, the client, and just because you're in operations and you work on the early part of the process doesn't mean that what you did that day doesn't impact the overall service outcome that happened from that. And as much as we can make sure people understand that, I think it creates a lot of satisfaction and allows them, it gives them the option, if they so choose, to continue to grow and flourish from a professional standpoint.
Well, you gave yet another elevator pitch to join work comp with that. So.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Because we need them. We need them.
Yeah. Well, we're doing our best to bring them in.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Alex, for joining us here at WCI Live in a podcast. This is Straight Out of Workers' Comp. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Mark.
All right.